In the grand narrative of history, we remember the kings, the conquerors, the philosophers. Their names are etched in stone and their deeds fill our textbooks. But civilizations are not built by the few. They are raised by the hands of the many, by countless forgotten artisans and laborers, whose skills form the very bedrock of society. These are the stories of the professions that shaped our world, the silent architects of history, whose work, though often uncredited, was anything but insignificant. Before the printing press, before the digital word, there was the scribe. In a world where illiteracy was the norm, the scribe held immense power. To be unable to write was, in a sense, to not exist in the official record. They were the keepers of knowledge, the recorders of law, the administrators of empire. In the quiet scriptoriums of monasteries or the bustling offices of ancient palaces, they painstakingly copied texts, their reed pens and styluses dancing across papyrus, vellum, and clay. Each character was an act of preservation, a defense against the erosion of time. From the Epic of Gilgamesh pressed into cuneiform tablets to the legal codes of Hammurabi, from Egyptian funerary texts to Roman imperial decrees, the scribe ensured that words and the ideas they carried would outlive their speakers. They were the memory of civilization. Look around you. The cup you drink from, the plate you eat on, the very bricks of ancient cities' civilization, for millennia, quite literally sat on clay. The potter was a cornerstone of daily life. With nothing but earth, water, and fire, they created the essential vessels that held everything from water and wine to grain and olive oil. Their workshops, centered around the endlessly spinning potter's wheel, were hubs of production that supplied entire communities. But their craft was more than mere utility. The decorations on a Greek amphora could tell a mythological story, the shape of a Roman jug could reveal its origin and purpose, and the discovery of pottery shards allows archaeologists to date ancient sites with remarkable precision. The potter's craft was a universal language of form and function, a tangible link to the everyday lives of our ancestors. When the sun set, the ancient world was plunged into a profound darkness, a realm of fear and uncertainty. But in this darkness, one figure held sway, the candlemaker. They controlled the night. Using tallow-rendered animal fat, or the more precious and pleasant-smelling beeswax, they crafted the primary source of artificial light for centuries. Their work allowed life to continue after dusk. Scholars could study, artisans could work, and homes could be filled with a warm, flickering glow. The quality of a candle was a status symbol. A smoky, sputtering tallow dip for the poor, a clean, bright beeswax taper for the church and the wealthy. By extending the day, the candlemaker didn't just provide light. They provided time, changing the rhythm of human existence itself. An empire is more than an army. It is a territory, defined and understood. And that understanding came from the hand of the mapmaker. Before satellites, before aerial photography, the world was a vast and intimidating unknown. Mapmakers, or cartographers, were the pioneers who gave it shape. They were explorers, mathematicians, artists, and spies, all in one. They compiled data from sailors' logs, military surveyors, and travelers' tales, painstakingly translating disparate accounts into a coherent visual form. A map was a tool of immense strategic value. With it, generals could plan campaigns, rulers could administer distant provinces, and merchants could navigate treacherous trade routes. Empires expanded because of them, their borders pushing ever outward on the parchment landscapes they created. Each line drawn was a claim, an assertion of knowledge and control over the world. We stand in awe of the pyramids, the Colosseum, the great cathedrals. We speak of the pharaohs and emperors who commissioned them, but it was the stone masons who gave them form. They were the master builders of the ancient world, armed with simple tools but possessing an extraordinary understanding of physics and geometry. They could quarry colossal blocks of granite, transport them for miles, and fit them together with a precision that baffles us to this day. They built structures meant to outlive gods. Their work was physically grueling and perilous, a lifetime spent shaping the most unforgiving of materials. But in their hands, rough stone became enduring symbols of power, faith, and human ambition, monuments that have defied the centuries. In the arid landscapes where the first cities rose, a single substance was more precious than gold: water. And the task of supplying it fell to the water-bearers. In cities without aqueducts or complex plumbing, they were the circulatory system, the vital link between the source, the river, the well, the spring, and the populace. Day after day, they would haul heavy clay pots or skins filled with water through bustling streets, their labor essential for drinking, cooking, bathing, and sanitation. Their presence was a constant, a daily rhythm of survival. Without their tireless effort, disease would run rampant and the dense urban populations that defined civilization would be unsustainable. Cities survived because they carried water, their strength measured not in soldiers, but in the steady supply they provided. The wealth of an ancient empire rested on a single fundamental commodity: grain. It was the currency of life, the fuel for armies and laborers alike. And at the heart of this system was the grain measurer. In the vast granaries of Egypt or the storehouses of Rome, they held a position of immense trust and responsibility. Using standardized scoops and leveling sticks, they would meticulously calculate the yields from harvests, the portions for distribution, and the reserves for the future. Theirs was a job of absolute precision. One wrong count could cause famine, sparking riots and toppling governments. They were the accountants of agriculture, the guardians of the food supply, ensuring the delicate balance between surplus and starvation. Before signatures became commonplace, how did one prove authenticity? How was a royal decree sealed or a merchant's contract validated? The answer lay in the intricate work of the seal engraver. These highly skilled artisans carved miniature designs in reverse into hard materials like stone, metal, or ivory. When pressed into soft clay or wax, the seal left a unique, identifiable mark, a symbol of authority and identity. A king's seal authenticated a law, a merchant's seal guaranteed a shipment, and a personal seal secured a private letter. The seal engraver protected identity before signatures, creating tiny masterpieces that were both works of art and indispensable tools of administration, commerce, and personal security. Their craft was the lock and key of the ancient world. The Roman maxim, "All roads lead to Rome," was not a metaphor. It was a statement of engineered reality, and this reality was paced out by the road surveyors. These were the engineers who laid the groundwork for empire. Armed with tools like the groma for sighting straight lines and the chorobates for ensuring a level grade, they plotted the course of the famous Roman roads across mountains, swamps, and forests. They understood drainage, foundations, and paving techniques, creating a transportation network of unparalleled quality and durability. Their work enabled the rapid movement of legions, the efficient transport of goods, and the swift communication of imperial commands. Empires moved at their pace, their expansion and cohesion utterly dependent on the straight, unwavering lines laid down by these masters of the land. The enduring legacy of Rome is written in its architecture, much of which was made possible by a revolutionary material: concrete. But this miracle substance owed its existence to a smoky, dusty, and dangerous profession, that of the lime burner. These workers operated kilns, subjecting limestone or seashells to intense, continuous heat for days on end. This process, known as calcination, transformed the rock into quicklime. When mixed with volcanic ash and water, this quicklime formed a mortar that could set underwater and was stronger and more versatile than anything that had come before. The Pantheon's dome, the Colosseum's arches, the empire's aqueducts, they stand today because of this material. Concrete existed because of the lime burners, toiling in the heat and dust to create the chemical magic that held an empire together. An idea is weightless in abstract thought. To survive, to be transmitted across time and space, it needs a body. For centuries, that body was provided by the papyrus makers of Egypt. Along the fertile banks of the Nile, they harvested the papyrus reed, a plant that would change the world. Through a laborious process of slicing the stalk's pith into thin strips, soaking them, and pressing them together in perpendicular layers, they created a smooth, light, and portable writing surface. Knowledge needed a surface, and papyrus was it. It was far superior to heavy clay tablets or cumbersome wooden boards. On these delicate sheets, Egyptian scribes recorded their history, Greek philosophers wrote their treatises, and the first Christian scriptures were copied. The intellectual and administrative life of the ancient Mediterranean world was written on a material born from a simple riverside plant. Commerce is built on trust. When a merchant in Alexandria traded with a merchant in Rome, how could they be certain they weren't being cheated? They relied on the impartial judgment of the weighmaster. Positioned in the bustling agoras and forums of ancient cities, the weighmaster, or libripans, presided over a large, official set of scales. Using a standardized system of weights, often made of bronze or stone and sanctioned by the state, they would verify the mass of goods, from precious metals to bulk commodities like grain or wool. Their role was to prevent fraud and ensure fairness in every transaction. Trade trusted their judgment, and their presence allowed for the complex, long-distance economic networks that defined great empires to flourish. The arc of history was bent by the discovery of metal. The transition from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age was a pivotal moment, and at its heart was the bronze caster. These were the alchemists of the ancient world, masters of fire and metallurgy. In the fiery glare of their foundries, they would melt copper and tin in a crucible, creating the alloy of bronze. This molten metal, poured into stone or clay molds, could be shaped into tools that were sharper and more durable than stone, and weapons that were deadlier. War and tools were born here. The bronze sword changed the face of battle, while the bronze plowshare transformed agriculture. The bronze caster was a creator of power, their technological innovations driving military conquest, economic expansion, and artistic expression for over 2,000 years. The thoughts of the past reach us as black marks on a page. The survival of those marks depended entirely on the quality of the ink. The ink makers were the quiet chemists of the ancient world. Their recipes often closely guarded secrets. For centuries, the most common type was carbon ink, made by mixing soot from burning oil, wood, or resin with a binder like gum arabic and water. Another type, iron gall ink, was made by mixing iron salts with tannic acid derived from oak galls. The permanence of this ink was crucial. A poorly made ink would fade, flake, or corrode the very papyrus it was written on, erasing history forever. History depended on their recipes, on their ability to create a substance that could carry the words of the past securely into the future. Before newspapers, before radio, before the internet, how did official news and public announcements spread? They traveled by voice, projected by the town crier. An official figure, often identifiable by a uniform or a ceremonial bell. The town crier was the primary medium of mass communication in cities and villages for centuries. Their loud, clear cry of, "Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes," would command attention before they read out royal proclamations, local bylaws, news of war, or advertisements for market days. In a largely illiterate society, they were an essential conduit of information from the authorities to the public. They were the living newspaper, their voice the thread that connected the community and kept it informed. To navigate the vast, featureless expanse of the open ocean or the desert, ancient travelers looked to the heavens. Their guide was a beautiful and complex instrument, the astrolabe. And the creation of this device was the work of the astrolabe makers. These were not mere metalworkers. They were astronomers, mathematicians, and engravers of the highest order. An astrolabe was a model of the universe, an intricate brass instrument with rotating plates and pointers that could be used to determine latitude, tell time, measure the height of a mountain, or cast a horoscope. Navigation relied on their precision. The knowledge and skill required to design, engrave, and assemble its many components made the astrolabe maker one of the most respected technical artisans of their time, bridging the gap between abstract science and practical application. Salt. Today it is a humble condiment on our tables. But in the ancient world it was white gold. It was a primary preservative, essential for storing food through winter and provisioning armies on the march. Entire economies were based on it. And the difficult, often brutal work of obtaining it fell to the salt harvesters. They worked in coastal salt pans, channeling seawater into shallow pools, and letting the sun evaporate the water, a process known as solar evaporation. Or, far more perilously, they toiled in subterranean salt mines, chipping away at the rock salt in dark, dangerous tunnels. Great trade routes like the Via Salaria in Italy were established to transport this precious commodity. Empires rose on salt routes, their wealth and stability dependent on the labor of those who harvested this essential mineral. Scent has always been a powerful signifier. It could demarcate the sacred from the profane and the elite from the common. This olfactory world was curated by the perfume makers. They were masters of distillation and extraction, using complex processes to capture the fragrant essence of flowers, resins, spices, and animal musks. Their creations were not for simple adornment. Incense and fragrant oils were central to religious rituals in temples from Egypt to Rome, their smoke believed to carry prayers to the gods. For the wealthy, expensive perfumes were a potent symbol of status and luxury, a way to distinguish themselves from the unwashed masses. Religion and status smelled different, thanks to the subtle art of the perfumer. Long before kings and armies decided the fate of empires, quiet officials with ledgers determined whether states lived or collapsed. Across ancient and medieval societies, tax assessors were the backbone of government power. In Rome, China, and the Islamic caliphates, these officials traveled towns and countryside, recording land, livestock, harvests, and households with meticulous care. Their calculations funded armies, roads, grain reserves, and public works, turning raw resources into functioning states. Empires that maintained accurate assessments could plan, adapt, and survive. Those that didn't quickly fell into debt, famine, or rebellion. Tax assessors worked far from the battlefield, but their influence was decisive. Overestimation triggered unrest and revolt. Underestimation weakened defenses and infrastructure. Their work required local knowledge, negotiation, and authority, often placing them at personal risk. In many cases, reforms to taxation, not military victories, marked the true turning points in a government's stability. If power depends on knowing what a society can give, who truly ruled the ancient world, the emperors on thrones, or the officials counting in silence? Some of the most powerful people in history never held a sword, they held a scroll. Archivists, scribes, and record-keepers shaped the memory of civilizations. In ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Imperial China, they meticulously copied, cataloged, and preserved documents that recorded laws, treaties, religious rites, and daily life. Their work determined which events were remembered and which were forgotten, from monumental victories to minor rebellions. By selecting, organizing, and sometimes censoring records, archivists created the narrative that future generations would inherit, influencing how entire cultures understood themselves. While rulers could wage wars and build monuments, archivists controlled the story. A misfiled or destroyed text could erase an entire dynasty or faith from history, while careful preservation could immortalize figures and ideas long after their deaths. Their decisions, quiet and often invisible, shaped collective memory and the lens through which we view the past. If history is written by the powerful, how much of it survives because of those who quietly decided what to remember and what to forget? Empires fall, names fade, but the work remains. If history remembered one thing, it should be this. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with fellows. Your support helps us bring you more captivating content like this.